Hey everybody, have you considered starting a podcast? We here at Screwball highly recommend Podbean for getting your podcast out to a larger audience. Podbean has given us the ability to easily bring you Screwball each and every week on all of your favorite podcast services. Use the link podbean.com/screwball to sign up and save up to 35% annually. You can also use the link podbean.com/pro/screwball to sign up for a business subscription. Happy podcasting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host, Mike Lepre, here with my co-host, Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
This week, we're on episode 62 of Screwball, and this week we have another light news week, as we've had in kind of some previous weeks here. Not much super important stuff to talk about, but we do have a cool topic, we thought, with the impending CBA agreement that is going to go into effect next season, so you're going to start hearing news about it shortly, I'm sure. They do have to have it negotiated and done. So instead of leading off with the news like we usually do, maybe go into a news topic that flows into our topic, we're just going to start with the topic and then go into the news afterwards. So I'll let Frank kind of lead this one off because it was more of a thing that I had no idea about going into the episode. So I'll let Frank lead off with what's going on with the CBA, and he can kind of hit us off with the topic and, get us going.
Yeah, as we've seen last year with the shortened season because of COVID, we had the CBA, or the Players Union, and the MLB try working it out, working together to get the season going. A big issue last year, obviously they couldn't match up what they wanted together. Big reason was because the Players Association couldn't give in to the MLB because they knew a CBA was coming up. So with the CBA, obviously the worries are, could there be a strike? Could there be a delayed season because of the CBA? It's a very tough year to do CBA because the revenue sharing and the revenue they brought in for 2 years. So there's going to be back and forth there. I mean, all the new rules MLB wants to try putting in, or the players want to put in, and stuff like that. Is there going to be universal DH? Probably. Has to be passed on, no. Is there going to be the extra inning rules? Is that going to stay? Who knows? Is there going to be the 3-batter minimum? Is that going to stay? Pitch clocks. Is there going to be part of the contracts, part of the CBA, electronic strike zone? Is there going to be a minor league pay increase in the CBA? Is there going to be... There's so many things to talk about. Shift. Is there going to be a shift, boundary, I guess you could say? Is there going to be division realignment? Possibly, if there's new expansion teams. Is there going to be a new playoff format? There's that league thing that ESPN signed a 7-year deal, and in that it says best of 3 wild card series they get the rights to. That's in the TV. Well, that kind of leads you to the idea that there's going to be a best of 3 playoff series at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So is that going to be... So you got all these questions, and then you have the Players Union. Obviously, they got to get the best deal. The owners got to get the best deal. They have to make money. So, we're in a spot right now where it's the CBA is for every sport. It's always an issue. As we've seen with football, they're on a strike. And baseball always seems to have strikes in the past. Basketball had an issue where strikes shortened a year not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey been on the fringe of that for a while too, especially in a sport like baseball, who's trying to keep their popularity and keep growing. A strike would hurt them, but the issue is, are we going to get a strike shortened season, or are we going to have some sort of issues with the revenue? I think the revenue in the COVID seasons here could cause a big issue, and then the rules. So I just wanted to bring up, that's our topic today is the CBA. Do we think that a deal can get made quickly, and do we think negotiations are going to kind of run more smoothly than they did with the COVID? I think they will. I think you might get the stories that come out like we did with COVID, where there's big issues and stuff. But when push comes to shove, like we seen with COVID, when they knew the season was on the line, they got done.
Mm.
They knew what they were doing. They were just going to keep using it as a negotiation tactic. Well, we'll just push the season back. We'll just not have a season. They weren't doing that. And the owners definitely aren't going to do that because they already lost money for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they're going to strike short and lose money for third year.
Yeah.
Especially your teams like Atlanta, when the reports came out, said that they're in debt quite a bit of money because of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't have a lot of the years to pay the stadium back, pay their loans back to make the stadium, because if the seasons. Same with the Rangers. Are going to have you're going to see reports with them. They obviously owe a lot of money because they didn't make any money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the CBA is going to run. You might see some articles and stuff, and it might seem like it's maybe a little rocky, but I think it'll run relatively smooth. They got to get a deal done. At the end of the season, there is no contract for baseball next year. I think the CBA and the Players Association, I think the MLB Commissioner's Office, they'll work together. I think we'll have a good transition. I think everything will kind of flow nice. You just might have some some things come out, some stories and headlines that look a little troublesome, but I think we'll be all right. I think they'll get it done, and I think the players and free agency is going to get a big jump because the players have been signing the smaller deals, waiting for the CBA, and the CBA is going to come in. They're going to take their big money and they're going to take their TV deals and stuff like that. It's going to change the landscape of free agency and the league.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think the free agency's got to see a bit of a bump because players are afraid to sign the long-term deals. In fear that teams are less willing to give those deals out. There's a lot of problems there with that. So you can see that start to change. I think that there will be problems with the CBA. I don't think that I think it's like you said, like at the end of the day, they'll get it done because when push comes to shove, they want to play. At the end of the day, the owners want to make money, players want to play. It's just as simple as that. Could there be a strike? Absolutely. I could definitely see it because there seems to be some sort of disconnect between the players and the owners. There definitely seems to be some strife there. I wouldn't say it's bad enough to where there would be a strike, but like I said, I could see it. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe that's the optimist in me talking. Like I just don't want it to happen, but I do see the sides working together. And as much as they both like to go back and forth, and like you said, you see the reports come out, and it seems like it's worse than it is. I think that's negotiating tactics too. To a point, they both know that if they leak stuff and release stuff, it makes the one side look worse, or you know what I mean. It's negotiating stuff, and it happens. So it's important for fans looking on the outside looking in to realize that this is kind of business, and it just is what it is. Things go back and forth. They don't just strike a deal as soon as they start negotiating. It's just not how things work. But a bigger point that we want to talk about that you brought up was what rules we could see. Could we see, God forbid, robo-umps? Could we see that extra innings rule expanded or stay as is, or universal DH, which I'm obviously I've been a big proponent of that. What could we see? Well, what do they have up their sleeve? What are the players willing to do versus what are the owners willing to do? It's all going to be super interesting. I hope they don't go too far like what Manfred wants and that whole scene in the upper management. I don't mind some change. We've talked on here previous episodes about what we like and what we don't like. So I don't mind minor changes. I don't mind maybe like another a playoff team or two. Expansion teams are always, I feel, a little exciting. But like you said, then it questions, well, what happens to divisions? They're all perfectly lined up right now. So then do you do, like you said, a conference thing? Do you do one in the AL, one in the NL, and do you just do like a few years ago where the NL Central had 6 teams? Do you do something like that? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff to consider, and it's all conjecture right now because we don't know. We can guess based on previous history with the Players Association and the owners, but it is just a lot of conjecture. We don't know. We don't have any hard write-ups or anything like that, or hard reports coming out. So.
Yeah, and a big thing too with the CBA and the Players Association is, oddly enough, what we just seen with players like Kelenic, where you have the CEO, former CEO of the Mariners, who pretty much came out and was like, yeah, we're not going to play him because, we want him an extra year. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a big part of the CBA. We've seen with Chris Bryant years ago was a big issue. So that's going to be talked about. And again, the minor leagues and the revenue sharing is always the big thing. Player safety and the length of season. Is it going to go back down to, 154? Mm-hmm. The playoffs. When are we starting? Are we going to do international games? Are we going to, what? There's so much stuff that we think is big things, but there's also the money and the contracts and all that stuff that you don't ever see. It's not the flashy stuff in the CBA.
That's true.
So there's already been some rumblings of Players Association and the MLB union and stuff like that. They're talking about negotiations and kind of writing some very putting their notes out, I guess, to each other. So there's been talks about some sort of negotiations, but they obviously have to continue to work on that because at the end of the season, whenever the official year ends, which I think is middle of December, because I think that's why the winter meeting's in the middle of January, the season's over and baseball's technically not under contract. So we have to the end of this year to actually get CBA, and then at that point, obviously a deal can get done after that, and still the season all runs smoothly, but that's when you start getting, okay, well, we don't have a season right now.
Yeah.
So at the end of this year, we really got to start seeing some movement, some very big movement, and start seeing, how the league's going to change, how we're going to be set up, and just see where we're at. Hopefully that'll, mend some of the tensions we've had here in the last really, I would say 2 to 3 years, we've had tensions with the Players Association and the MLB union, the commissioner's office, with some rule changes and the way the minor league's been handled and the cheating scandals we've had, and then COVID. So I think it's really been battle tested already.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but hopefully, I think everything will work out. It just might be push the boundaries or push the envelope a little bit closer than people would want. But I think it'll all come out, and I think the final answer will be, good for both sides and good for the fans for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, you never know what can happen in negotiations. Who's the most outspoken for the Players Association? Who's the most outspoken for the owners? Will they butt heads a lot? Will it almost take too long, and that causes it? Not that they're not going to get the deal done, but it just to get to that resolution is a bit of a road. But I do think it'll be okay. Like I said, I could see a strike, just because there's been previous problems, and it's kind of like a thing of where there's smoke, there's fire. So I could absolutely see it happen. Will it be bad? Will it be like an infamous,
94?
like 94 strike, or will it be anything like that? No, I don't think.
Whatever was that, 83 or whatever, when they had like half a season. And
it was in the 80s. I think it might have been 83. But yeah, in that same vein where it's almost like,
I think, with another strike.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have Two Pockets Johnson and the fellas negotiating their $10,000 a year wages or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think we're at that far of a disconnect. Could we be? Maybe behind the scenes we don't know something. Maybe, but I mean, to my knowledge, it doesn't seem like we're at that point. They do seem to agree on stuff, and like you said, they're battle tested. They had to do the COVID negotiations. There was the cheating stuff, which obviously didn't go over well for, the owners, and most people would say that was a failure. I would agree with that. So there's been things that they have had discussed before. It's not like they're just throwing stones at each other from afar. They've had to sit in a room together and get things done, and they've done it before. They know what's on the line. They should know what's on the line. And at the end of the day, I do think, I do think that they'll get it done. But you never know what gets thrown in there. Then say they get it done, but then we as baseball fans are left, well, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? So that could also be a thing, where we have the season, but it like I said, the robo-umps, which I know there's a division. I from what I can see, there's a division on what people think of it. I hate the idea of the robo-umps. I do like the human element of not as bad as Angel Hernandez, but you do have a guy that this is his plate. That's how he calls the game, and I do like stuff like that. I mean, there's a million things we could talk about. This could take. This could be a 5-hour episode on everything that they could change, but but for the most part, I think it'll be okay. Yeah,
and I just wanted to bring it up just because there has been some minor rumblings and some stuff I've seen briefly about the CBA and that coming up, and obviously the old rules and stuff are going to be a big impact. But it's just an idea that the season, when it ends, there's obviously no CBAs now, so hopefully, keep an eye on it, see what they're trying to do, what the rules are saying, and just see what's going on with the CBA, and just just keep your eyes and ears open for it, because as much as it doesn't seem to be like, well, that's not current day baseball, it's not what's going on in the league. Without a CBA, there is no baseball, so it's playing a game without a ball kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So just keep your eyes open for that, and hopefully everything runs smoothly, and the changes that are needed are made, and things are all hunky-dory, I guess you could say.
Sure. Yeah, that one can hope, I mean, putting your hope in in Manfred and the fellas are risky business, putting your faith in them. But, at the end of the day, I do think they value just putting putting a product on the field. Whether they think it's good or not is up to them, but they do run it out there, and they do want to have baseball being played.
Yeah,
so.
And they need the money for the people, owners who paid the money for these teams. They need the money. But also, I think they have the pressure of, let's just be right down and honest, they got the pressure of certain players, especially a player like Trout. We already lost games of his career in the prime of his career. Do you really want to mess around with a strike and really miss the prime of Mike Trout's career, one of the greatest we've seen? I know you said that, well, look at 94, but it's the same concept.
Mm.
They missed years of Ken Griffey there. It's like, do you really want to do that?
And I believe that year, just to add on to that, I believe you had that year 2 guys, if not just Tony Gwynn, shooting for a 400 average at that point.
Yeah, so they have that pressure on them as well to see some of these unbelievable big names in the game actually starting to change and get some faces to the game. Do you really want to affect that, hurt that? So they have their own pressures. It might seem stupid or like that's not what they're thinking about. They're thinking about that.
Oh, yeah.
So
they should be.
But anyway, that's pretty much it. That was our topic of today since we couldn't really figure anything else out. But figured out was a big one because that's the pen and paper of the game of baseball.
Yeah.
You need that or you don't have it.
Yeah.
Officially. So.
Yeah, in the big business of baseball, owners got to make money, and the players got to put the product out there that earns them the value. So if you want to look at it just from a business standpoint, it's got to get done from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I'm going to look out for it. I know you'll be looking out for it. So hopefully, if you're listening, you start to see stuff and stay engaged and just know what kind of product will be on the field next year. But that was our topic of conversation. We haven't gotten into our news yet. So I'll lead us off here with the number one piece of news. Like I said, kind of slow news week, nothing really earth-shattering going on. But number one, we talked about it last week, and I think we maybe even guessed that this would be the topic this week. Albert Pulhos has found a new home. While many baseball fans are hoping for a Cardinals reunion with the future Hall of Famer, Dodgers were the team to snag Albert Pulhos. It has been reported by CBS Sports that two to three more teams other than the Dodgers were interested, but ultimately Albert felt that the Dodgers were the best choice. There's a noted lack of depth for position players in the Dodgers, and Pulhos can fill a platoon role at first base with Muncie in the meantime. So we talked about it before we started recording here, but you have Corey Seager goes down. There's an empty slot at shortstop. I believe Edwin Rios is out for the year. Cody Bellinger's on the IL right now. And regardless, the Dodgers seem to have a pretty hefty lefty lineup. So adding a righty bat in Pulhos, who seems to be disgruntled and, not happy with the Angels and trying to prove something, this was a team that surprised me would get him. I didn't even think it was really in the realm of possibility. But the more I think about it, the more it does make a bit of sense. Is it the perfect fit, I think, for him? No. But it does make sense from a depth perspective. Like, for the Dodgers, it makes sense for their depth. And it makes sense for Pulhos because they probably said, hey, listen, you're going to play against lefties. That's a guarantee. And while these guys are on the shelf, you're going to be playing. Like, tonight they have Muncie playing second.
And Pulhos is batting cleanup. He doesn't have to move. He's still in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a bad move for him. If you really break it down, it makes more sense. But originally when you see it, you're like, but it makes sense. It's not bad. Like I said, he's batting cleanup today. Go smash the draft books. He's hitting a home run today. Put that down. Write that down. He might even hit two. But he'll hit a home run today. But glad to see he's just in the league, continuing to pad onto a career that's arguably one of the greatest, I think, top 10 pure hitters we've ever seen play the game. And you guys listened before, I have him as the greatest first baseman who ever played baseball. So this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Pretty good pickup for the Dodgers to get the best first baseman of all time. And
I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I'll root for that young man.
Yeah,
Good for the Dodgers to do that for him, and good for him to find a home.
Yeah, they didn't seem to hesitate on it. What's he gonna miss here? A week of baseball, week plus.
They're paying him $420,000. Angels are paying him $30 million. So you're getting Albert Pulhos for, in this sport, a used tissue.
Yeah, exactly. So good luck to him. Hopefully he gets a lot of. I know he wants the playing time. That's I've heard a lot of reports of that he wants to start. He doesn't just want to be the bench guy.
He wants to play. Maybe 60% of the games.
Well, yeah, he wants to start. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't want to be the starter, but he doesn't want to be the bench guy.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be playing once a week.
Yeah, exactly. So
but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Good for him and good for baseball, really.
Sure. And number two we have here is a little bit of a record-setting moment here for Corbin Burns. He set the record strikeout-to-walk ratio to start the season. Brewers' emerging star Corbin Burns has been nothing short of dominant to start the season and set a new record last week at 58 strikeouts before allowing a walk. He passed Kenley Jansen in 2017, who had the previous record of 51 strikeouts before allowing a walk. Pretty impressive start of the season to Corbin Burns. It's been noted already by a lot of news outlets and anyone that watches the game. Brewers pitching has been pretty good this season on the back of him and Brandon Woodruff, and they're already noted good bullpen. But I thought obviously this was a cool stat. Start the year, you're into May. Obviously I believe he had some injury concerns. So, maybe date it back a little bit if he starts every game. But, I mean, you're into May and you don't allow a walk. That's pretty damn good, as a starter especially.
Yeah.
So that's pretty damn good.
Yes, that's great, especially for this day and age where it's throw hard and don't know where she's going kind of thing. Great for him. Good for the Brewers. A good thing he took a step for his career and for the Brewers' sake for competitiveness. But yeah, that's a great record to hold there. 58 strikeouts and no walks. That's awesome. That's awesome for a starter too, because that's multiple innings. And let's say your offense has a long inning, you come out, you throw one close pitch, it's called a ball. The next one slips, you're 2-0. You pinched a little bit, all of a sudden you walk guy. You don't think that much. So. And he's not a super overpowering guy where he could just, I throw 102, I could just throw fastballs down the middle, and most likely I'm not gonna get hit around too much. He's got a good ERA and those strikes, and that's good for him. It's part of the game. We an old school part of the game we don't really see to just throw strikes and make him beat you.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a cool record, and like I said, good for him and good for the Brewers pitching that we we criticized.
Yeah.
Early in the season, so
Yeah.
so good for them.
Yeah. So. Yeah, some other news I have. I seem to always bring some of the worst news out. I think CBA issues is a topic, and baseball fun in the past. I always bring the best parts, I guess.
Sure.
But the possibility of Oakland losing the A's, losing all their sports teams. We've mentioned this in the past, but it is actually on the table right now, as MLB has given the Oakland A's permission to seek a new city. And there is a proposal, like we mentioned 2 weeks ago, there's a proposal on the table for them to stay in Oakland. There's another side proposal that doesn't seem to be quite up there, but there's also another chance there. So there was 2 proposals to keep them in Oakland, but they did get permission to seek a new city. And oddly enough, one of the cities they could be seeking is Las Vegas, which baseball has tried keeping out of, but no, they can't keep out of it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think circa Pete Rose for that one. But Las Vegas is a destination for them. Some other places I have kind of took notice to. Portland has gone ballistic for the idea of getting a baseball team. They've sent out multiple building this massive stadium and all this crazy stuff to get a team to go there. Look for that. Montreal, dying to get a team back there. And then you have an emerging city, really I think in the people's minds, of Nashville.
Yeah.
Which can go ballistic for a team.
Mm-hmm.
So some areas for them to look for. But Oakland has permission to seek at least a new city to just maybe lay some groundwork. Be like, oh, if this doesn't work out, we have some info here to go here.
Sure.
So that's huge news. And another bit of good news actually here is the full capacity. Phillies, we're going to see full capacity June 12th. New York teams, Mets and Yankees, we're going to see 33% this Friday. Atlanta, we see full capacity now. The Rangers, I believe Houston's at full capacity or close. I'm not sure that's a team-wise thing there. Colorado expects to have full capacity by the All-Star break or All-Star game, if not already. So we're seeing a lot of full capacity and fuller capacities at the very least, which is great to see. Get fans back in and just kind of get us fully back to normal because it's feeling pretty close to normal. So getting full capacity in a lot of these stadiums and closer full capacity is awesome, especially for us baseball fans who want to go watch a game in person. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's great news to see. Especially Philly is one of the harsher cities with their restrictions. To see them go full capacity by June 12th is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes life easier for us living here on the East Coast to go see baseball games, because we've been, other than, obviously California, one of the more strict areas of the country with this, with the COVID restrictions. So having, people getting their vaccinations and people getting out more and life getting a little bit more back to normal here is always good to see.
Yeah.
Can't really.
Florida's full capacity too, right? Florida's back to normal.
Florida's been, I believe Florida and Texas were one of the first to open stuff, correct? I know they lifted their mask mandate early.
Yeah, I believe that's...
so I believe it was them two in the South that were
Other than,
early.
the Rays, New Orleans, their fans still keep the social distance because all 7 of them.
Yeah, not many of them going to games anyway.
No, I don't fill the stadium up, which is which is crazy, especially with a team like the Rays. But yeah. But a lot of stadiums open up full capacity and more capacity, and that's great. And hopefully, for the sake of fan base and the sake of players and the sake of everything, hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays, can actually get back to Toronto and play a game there, especially knowing there are a playoff bound team
Yeah.
at this point in their franchise.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get a playoff game in Toronto. Would be great for them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, got to feel for those fans. I can't really do nothing about it. You know,
Yeah.
there's, you know, it's just a different country, so it's, you know, different rules and different laws, so it just is what it is. But yeah, that's good stuff. Who knows what happens with Oakland? I mean, you never know with them in anything.
No. It doesn't seem to work out.
No.
If you're an Oakland fan, it doesn't seem to work out. And I've been on the wrong side of that,
Mm-hmm.
so I know.
Yeah.
As a
Sure.
Raiders fan, it feels good now that they're in a good stadium, but it doesn't sit right.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But
yeah.
hopefully they work it all out.
Mm-hmm. The last piece of news here before we go into our hot and cold teams, just a little scuff, you know, a little argument in the dugout on Sunday. Joe Girardi and Gene Segura. During a 10-8 loss to the Blue Jays on Sunday, the television broadcast showed an apparent confrontation between manager Joe Girardi and second baseman Gene Segura. Incident was most likely sparked by Segura's 2 errors in the game, to which neither side gave clarity on the post-game interviews. I believe Girardi basically shut down the questions, just said just catch the ball or just field the ball or something. He said something to that regard. Could be a sign of frustration on the part of the Phillies as they sit 21-20 on the season. Not obviously the worst record, but
Half a game out of first.
and yeah, I mean with you know that whole division really underperforming, you know you have to imagine that there's frustration on underperformance and not being able to jump on an underperforming. You know the Mets are supposed to be very good. The Braves are obviously both picked them to be very good this season. So it could be a little frustration. Could be a little frustration themselves. You know it just it is what it is. But I thought it was strange, especially a guy like Girardi, who's, unless it's at the umpire, usually pretty good with his guys. You know, so
Well, you know, you gotta send a message sometimes, and sometimes tempers flare, but sending a message in a close game and showing that, like, hey, we gotta hustle, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta care, and see Segura kind of fight back. Sometimes you say, well, you know, you don't want a player fighting back, but it shows he cares too. So sometimes you just need a little kick in the ass, or sometimes you just need a manager and everyone to kind of be like, hey, let's go, you know, and get on each other a little bit. So it definitely wasn't the worst thing you're going to see.
No.
And I think it really is going to be on the better side of terms there for the Phillies. It's going to work out better. It wasn't like a fist fight, Lou Piniella style, but,
No.
Or Billy Martin or any of those
yeah,
guys.
Reggie and Billy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be on the good, the better side of things for them. So, just a little emotion and, shows how much games matter here in May and stuff to everybody.
Yeah, I even seen reports coming out. The Twins' playoff chances dwindling. I've seen stuff like that already coming out. So these games matter.
Yeah. At this point, for teams like that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
they're rough.
Yeah. So, it's good to see a little emotion though. So
Sure.
I think it's going to work on the better side for the Phillies.
Yeah, they're a good team, and like you said, they clearly care. It's not if they wouldn't be yelling like that if they didn't care.
Yeah.
So it's a good sign in that regard. A little silver lining. And then the wrap up, number 4, who's doing the best right now. The White Sox currently own the best record in the league at 24-15, with the Red Sox and the A's right behind them at 25-17. There's just like a .015 winning percentage difference, I think, in those two records. Over in the NL, the Giants still own the best record at 24-16, which is good for second in the MLB. So the White Sox, A's, Red Sox, and Giants still kind of at the top here. White Sox hold the best run differential at +61. The Tigers still on the worst at -69. Which, I mean, at this point, are you surprised? Probably not. And I'm not going to... It's like I said last week, I don't want to keep putting them down as the worst run differential, but hopefully...
Just in total, the city of Detroit and their sports have just been beaten
I know.
to death.
I know. You wish... Well, I think good days are coming for the Tigers at some point.
I think for all the teams.
Well, you got...
I shouldn't say that. No one knows but the Pistons. But,
yeah. And the Red Wings stink.
They're on their way.
I'm a Red
though.
Wings.
Throwing the squids out there. They'll be back. Don't worry.
I'm a Red Wings fan,
Tigers
so...
are on the fence. They're coming close. And the Lions, well, that's just that.
Yeah, it's
So
the Lions.
Yeah. As long as they're not 0-16, I guess you're rooting for the right... You're going the right direction. So...
Yeah.
0-17 now, I guess, for football. But, yeah, that's good. I mean, it's some other hot teams I got here. It's the Blue Jays are doing well. The White Sox, as you mentioned. The Astros, since the COVID debacle and people coming back for them, have been playing well. The Mets were on a little hot streak there. And the Padres just got done sweeping the Cardinals, which was like the first time they'd done that in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cardinals were a team that was hot as well. We mentioned last week. Some teams to throw out that aren't doing good. The Royals, after their hot start, lost 11 straight.
Wow.
obviously back on the winning side now, but that's pretty crazy. The Twins, boy, they're as much talent as they have and where they're going, jobs are on the line.
Sure.
Head coaching jobs on the line right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe that's what Rocco Baldelli.
I believe it still is. Yeah.
He's got to figure his stuff out over there because it won't be long here if you've got a team like that and you're not at least competing. Another team we got the Rangers not doing well, Diamondbacks, and the Rockies. So there's some teams there, some kind of expected, but there's some cold teams, some hot and cold teams just to throw out.
Yeah. I mean, a team like the Twins just got too much talent. You think, and it's like we said with the Braves and the Dodgers and the Yankees, they just got too much talent. It's got a law of averages, just got to all work out at some point. But it is a little strange. But you know what, though, we the Nationals stunk up to this point in the season, and they won the World Series. So I guess you can't quite put that flag up yet, maybe. But it kind of takes a season like that to turn it around. So then to move on to our who's hot and who's not players. Start off here with our players of the week. Number 1, Aaron Judge, 571 average, 1333 slugging at 1973 OPS. Was just hitting the cover off the ball, hitting his home runs like you kind of want him to. So coming off of a pretty damn cold and ugly week, he turned it around and had the hot week. So we'll see where he goes from there. And number 2, the NL player of the week, Josh Fuentes for the Rockies, had a 500 average, a 909 slugging, a 1431 OPS. It seems like, it seems like the Rockies always got hitting. Yeah. Even when they're bad like this, there always seems to be guys hitting for them. So
yeah, good for Josh Fuentes and the Rockies there.
Yeah. And then number 3, I got Jonathan Daza, if I'm saying that name right. Yeah. A 609 average over last week, a 739 slugging, a 1379 OPS. Not quite the power.
For who?
The Rockies. They got 2 of them right here. And they're cold.
And they're still in the cold list.
I was going to say they're still cold. I don't know. And I know you're going to get into pitchers. I believe they have a hot pitcher on there too. So I'm not sure what's going on. But yeah, he didn't quite have the slugging and the power that I guess Fuentes had. And
609's that's all right.
It's a pretty good week. Yeah let's say now. Number 4, I got Max Muncie with a 500 average, 1,000 slugging, and a 1571 OPS.
Signed Pulhos. He's like, well, here comes my job, so I better start hitting.
Yeah, exactly. So, Muncie, we all kind of know is a pretty damn good hitter. Had a pretty rough 2020, if I'm not mistaken, and a rough start to the season here. So, pretty encouraging for Dodger fans to see him start to get going a little bit here, for sure. And number 5, Tim Anderson, 458 average over the last week, 667 slugging, 1185 OPS. He's been good all season, I think. He's been good for quite a few years now, so it's no surprise here that he's hitting like this. He's one of the more exciting players, and no surprise the White Sox are playing as good as they are. You got production like that out of your shortstop. So you know, so it's great.
Yeah, some other guys to mention. Again with the White Sox, Jose Abreu playing well. Started off a little cold there. Had that collision with Hunter Dozier, looked a little scary there, but had a good week. And Yandy Diaz for the Rays, one of the few guys for the Rays that are actually hitting.
Yeah.
So those are some guys here to throw out there. Some pitchers I want to throw out. Rich Hill pitched great against the Yankees. He shut him down for a guy that throws like 17 miles per hour. He's 49 years old. So
couldn't believe it.
Lance McCullers doing great this year.
Yeah.
All in all, but recently doing very well. Anthony DeSclafani for the Giants. Disco, he's pitching well this year, but overall, recently, the Rockies you mentioned, Chichi Gonzalez pitching well, and Liam Hendricks for the White Sox. A couple saves last week and a couple innings, no earned. So he's pitching well. So yeah, I mean, there's some guys there that you don't think you'll see much. Chichi Gonzalez and Rich Hill and really DeSclafani, you don't really expect to see too much on these lists. So some extra names you don't really hear of too much.
Sure, yeah, it's always good to see guys that are like Josh Fuentes winning player of the week. It's not a name that, you're going to see too often. You see his name here I have with the hot list next to Max Muncy, Tim Anderson, and Judge. That's a good company.
Yeah. But
unfortunately, you have to get into the cold guys as well. So the 5 cold guys I have this week are number 1, Eddie Rosario, .050 average, .050 slugging, and a .224 OPS over last week. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he was on the cold list last week too.
Yeah, he'll get going.
Yeah, but another example, like you said, of a guy that you start to get this cold streak, and you get out. These guys are too good. You'll get out of it at some point, you think, but it's gotta start getting going. Number 2, I have Jed Lowry, 100 average over the last week, the 150 slugging at 293 OPS. I have him on my fantasy team, and he just makes my head hurt because I love Jed Lowry, but come on.
Yeah. Mets fans don't, but
Nah, barely. Number 3 got Ehire Adrianza, if I'm saying that correctly, for the Braves. 100 average over the last week, 100 slugging, and a 243 OPS. The Braves have been very wishy-washy this year, if even you could even consider them that. They've been very underwhelming so far. I got another guy right here for the Braves as well. And I also have 2 Braves on my fantasy team that are just very frustrating at the moment, even though they're very talented in Freddie Freeman and Ozuna.
They'll get going, though.
God, I hope so. Number 4, I have Dansby Swanson. 130 average over last week, 261 slugging, 415 OPS. On the better side of these guys I have listed here for sure. But, I mean, a 130 average is never, or really a 261 slugging. You should be at least batting that if you're Dansby Swanson. So, not a great week for him. And like I said, just kind of speaks to the Braves not really getting it going here. And number 5, I have Nick Madrigal with a 130 average, a 174 slugging, and a 304 OPS. Nick Madrigal's a guy that is just a pure contact guy, putting the ball in play. I believe he has one of the lowest strikeout rates in the league, if not the lowest. A guy that I'm quickly really starting to like here. But with that, I don't suspect he'll be on this list long. And if I didn't look at his strikeouts for the week, maybe his strikeouts were up. Maybe he just had a rough week with swinging at stuff, or I don't know.
Just to give you a quick update on him, he's 1-for-1 today.
Oh, there you go.
So he's back on track.
I heard we were talking about him.
So yeah, so some of the other cold guys I got, Jackie Bradley Jr., I don't think he had a hit. That's the, $100 million man he wanted to be. Yeah, good for him. Mike Trout struggling.
Yeah,
surprising,
mightily.
But Blue Pit yesterday to end up winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll get going now after that. So he starts to have Longoria, Calhoun, and Seth Brown. Some other guys struggling, and some pitchers that aren't doing great. Chase Anderson got beat up. Andrew Heaney been struggling a little bit. Kershaw had a shortest start of his career.
Yeah.
Pablo Lopez, after a good start of the year, had a little bit of struggle here. And big name, as I know, Sandy Alcantara, 1 1/3, 8 earned against the Dodgers. Ballooned his ERA all the way up to just at 4, which is still, with a start like that, is tells you how good he was doing.
Sure.
But there's some names there that aren't doing very good, to add on to what you already mentioned.
Yeah.
So, one guy to take a look at, though, was really struggling this year, but got going, Matt Chapman. So good for him to get going, because he was really struggling.
Yeah, he was ice cold.
Yeah, so he's getting going. That's good for him, because he's a very well-liked and likable guy. So just want to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, just to get into some of our last little bit here is injuries, and it's always the worst thing to talk about. Some big names injured this year, but here's some names here I just want to throw out. Nate Pearson, day-to-day in the minors. Aaron Hicks, IL. Wrist injury. Torres in the COVID IL. Giancarlo Stanton placed in the IL. Kenta Maeda left the game early. Ty France in the IL. Ronald Acuna was put. He was day to day. He's back today. Pinch hit yesterday. Back today fully. That's very good. McNeil and Conforto both left the game. Both placed in the IL. Both of them with hamstring injuries. Mm-hmm. So stretch that out over there with the Mets, because that's 2 guys in the same day, same inning, I believe.
Yeah.
Harper and JT Realmuto both placed, both day to day, not on the IL. Calm down, Philly fans. Paul DeJong in the IL with a fractured rib. I'm not sure how long he'll be out. Corey Seager broke his hand, as Mike mentioned. Tough blow for them. Drew Pomeranz placed in the IL for the Padres. So that's a big part of their bullpen. Mm-hmm. And then on the better side of things, I guess you could say, Rendon is back again. Corbin Burns missed, I believe, two weeks or so with the COVID-related stuff.
Something
He's
like
back,
that, yeah.
and Sam broke the record. Strasburg almost back, he's doing a rehab. Seth Lugo almost back for the Mets. Alberto Mondesi doing rehab, he's almost back. G-Man Choi, hopefully for the Rays, because they've been struggling, very near to being back. And Santander ready to go in rehab. So there's some good names and good news to some teams and some players too.
Yeah, good stuff. A lot of notable injury names there that you never like to see. You never like to see anyone get hurt, but it seemed to be a big week. A lot of like you said, Hicks could be next week, could be the year. Corey Seager for the Dodgers, that's a big blow for them. He's been one of the more consistent guys. Stanton, Yankee fans always hold their breath with the big guy and the other big guy if they get hurt. So, a lot of big names. Ronald Acuna, you worry about every time he gets hurt, because it seems to be always a scare with him. But I mean, another week where we don't have a Luis Robert situation where you basically lose a guy for a year, because you never like to see a guy lose a year of his career, especially if they have that much talent.
Yeah.
But I mean, good to hear guys coming back. Good to hear that guys can be back in a week, stuff like that. So that's always good news.
Yeah, I mean, it always can be on the worst side of things too.
Sure.
So that's about it. That's about all I got. If you got anything you want to throw in.
No, that's all I got for the week, really. Kind of slow. Not much, like I said, nothing really earth-shattering, just kind of normal baseball week, normal camaraderie and, shit like that.
Yeah, so that's it. The last thing I got is our trivia question. And I didn't really know what to do to relate to this topic. But the trivia question for the week is, which franchise has the most ties?
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the franchise. So if you're talking the Yankees, they were the Highlanders and all that. No, it's just the Yankees franchise, though. And if you want to do whatever.
Senators.
Yeah, Red Stockings and the Reds. It's just a franchise. So what franchise out of 30 that are in the league has the most ties? And a little bonus if you can guess the number, which I know that's always hard, but just take a guess at the franchise. And Mike, I don't know, named a bunch of teams and couldn't quite get the name, the right one.
There's only so many old ones. You got to eventually come to it.
Yeah. So the answer is, which franchise has the most ties? The answer, San Francisco Giants. And the number is 163.
Jesus.
So this current day right now in baseball, they played one whole season and plus one game of ties.
It's insane. Of just tying the game.
Yeah.
I mean, ties are basically unheard of anymore. I mean, you've had some in the fair recent.
More scheduling and means nothing kind of, why play it kind of thing. More of a ties other than hey, it's dark out.
Yeah,
Gotta go.
We have no lights.
Yeah, hold on, it's dinner time. I gotta go home.
Yeah.
Cancel the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So, Giants have the most ties though at 163. Obviously, it's one of the oldest franchises. Put them right up there with, I believe, the Reds were up there. Cubs were very close. I believe the Phillies, 'cause I believe they were part of the Philadelphia A's. So there was a couple teams there that were all pretty close. I think the second was 161 ties, I believe. But Giants have 163, and that is the record as of right now.
Wow. Yeah, that won't be broken. I mean,
unless that second place team gets one of them couple crazy ones.
Yeah.
Or MLB changes the rules to CBA compared to that with ties and point system and nonsense.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
But that's our trivia question.
It's a good one. That to me is just for me is just a stat that never lived in my head. So I was just guessing. I was like, well, that's an old franchise.
Yeah.
They had to done it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Just to think about some of the old stuff and how it used to be ties all the time, especially the Cubs all the way up to the 80s when they didn't have lights.
Yeah.
They didn't really have ties. They would just replay them, but that's the concept. It was dark out, let's go home.
Yeah. A lot of the ties obviously were in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Just is what it just is what it is. You don't really see
anything before the 1950s. You had ties.
Yeah.
After the 1950s, things start kind of.
There were more here and there.
Random shape, but yeah, that's a trivia question though.
Yeah, it's a good one. I don't know how many people. There's some questions I'm like, I don't even know how you get this unless you just guess. But like I said, and I've said it in previous weeks, we put it up as on Twitter as a multiple choice. So if
Facebook is tough.
Yeah.
There's no multiple choice on Facebook.
Yeah,
so
you gotta know it.
Yeah, but on Twitter you get a little help.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that's all I got for this week. I've repeated it already, but not a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Some notable stuff, injuries, hot and cold stuff, and look out for the CBA. But that's kind of all I got as far as this week. So
yeah, that's it. Just play ball, and hopefully Pulhos has a good debut.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Knowing him, he'll set the world on fire. It'll be like Manny would, like I said before we recorded. But yeah, so that's it. So let's just wrap this one up. Thank you guys for listening. You can catch this podcast on Google Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen to this podcast on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @RomikeCapri. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod. No E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Take care.